Hey guys, welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast. Join us as we jump into the world of CrossFit and celebrate the strength, resilience, and determination of Masters athletes. I'm Jason Grubb. I'm here with Rick Stevenson and Keith Martin, our special guest tonight. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
It's January.
How's everyone feeling? It's January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everybody.
I know where everybody's at now. It takes a heck of a lot longer to warm up in the morning when you're starting your training session. It's just not nice out there. It's dark, and generally dark and cold.
This is true. I agree. I'm agreeing with that.
And Rick, happy birthday to you, my friend. 52. Yeah. I'll just say it to the world. If we need to bleep that out, you tell me. But 52 years old, middle of the age group. Hope you had a great birthday. I think today you took the day off. You probably went and got like a manicure, pedicure kind of stuff. That was, massage, some hot, cold therapy, stuff like that.
I started my morning with some nasty, evil programming.
I don't know anything about that.
And then went to work. Came home and had some dinner. So for January birthday,
man,
that's what happens.
Living the dream.
It's dark in the morning and dark in the evening when you get home. So, thanks.
Right. Honestly, I think that if your birthday is around Christmas or in January, you should really celebrate your half birthday. Fantastic. You should throw a big one in July and just July 9th. Let's just let's do it.
In the water, that kind of
yes.
stuff. Sun, you name it.
Yep.
So. Yeah. I
like it. Well, we have just a little bit of news today, not a ton. So let's jump into that, and then we want to get to know Keith. Not even going to talk about that yet. The news, I know one piece of news, and then Rick, I'll have you take over. But obviously, we heard the announcement of the for the individual CrossFit competition, individuals and teams. It looks like GoRuck will be the apparel and shoe sponsor. So that's news. There's not a lot of news this week, but that is news. What do you guys think?
Keith, thoughts?
I guess I'm excited to see kind of what they come with from on the apparel side, and if they develop some more shoes. And I think it really gives them a segue into this, a better segue into the sport. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what new comes from them as a part of this. That's where I was kind of thinking.
They're not super new of a company. It's just they're not in the space that we're. The three of us are real accustomed to seeing them.
Yeah.
And, they have a real good backstory. And from what I've heard, they make really quality equipment and footwear, certainly. I don't know anything about the apparel yet. But it obviously there's someone that we think some of the folks at HQ have some history with. So it's kind of made sense, and I'm sure the numbers made sense for them. It'll be, between the rebranding of the logo, which caught all that flack on social media, and then immediately into the footwear, or into the sponsorship news. For them, they've been busy watching the social media chatter on it all. But GoRuck, wish them all the best. The last two sponsors, like Noble and Reebok, have either been new to the space like Reebok, or grown their brand entirely like Noble. So from the track record that the CrossFit community provides to companies like this, it's probably going to be pretty beneficial for GoRuck from a long run relationship.
Yeah, I took a look. Go ahead, Keith.
Oh, sorry. I was secretly hopeful maybe they would get Cody Anderson to come back and compete. But that's just a personal.
Yeah, I remember Cody.
He's
really, there's
athlete,
a couple of them. I didn't realize he was. Boy, he provided some pretty big games moments in the past, over the years. Yeah.
Man, following that guy's journey, he went from like the CrossFit gymnast who could do everything, gymnastics, to like what I see him lifting on his Instagram. He's just lifting massive weights. Yeah. And I think he still weighs 85 pounds, maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. Not really. He's a big dude, but man, he can move some pounds. Yeah. Speaking of, I forgot the rebrand, Rick, you mentioned that. CrossFit chose to rebrand this week the CrossFit logo, the CrossFit Games logo. I have some thoughts and opinions on it, and I want to get your guys' thoughts, and then I will share. I will just say that, like, I don't love it, but I'm going to share a little bit more detail about that, and that I'm accepting it, of course. What choices do I have in it? And it's totally fine. But we have a podcast, and there's things to talk about. So I'll tell you why I don't like it, but I want to know what you guys think. And before I jump into that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I noticed it because my app
Immediately
logo changed on my phone. That was the
Yep.
only reason I knew it happened.
Right.
So I was like, huh, that's interesting. I guess I didn't have any positive or negative thoughts on it. I'm gonna stay right in the middle on that one. I was just interested, interesting that it had changed. That was all I noticed.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I hadn't thought too much about if I liked it or not.
It's fine. I guess I was apt maybe not to like the change until I saw somebody post through the years from like 2009 all the way through, and how many times the logo has changed, how many we got used to seeing maybe for 1 or 2 years. And then I'm like, oh, this is just another one. It's fine. Still says what you need it to say. It gives us something to complain about. In the interwebs.
I mean, it does. I mean, we got to have something to talk about during the off season. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you, it's fine. It is, and it has changed over the seasons. But I'll tell you what, I was like, there's something about it that I don't like. So I asked my wife, I was like, hey, will you, her friend runs, well, I don't know what she actually does, but she is a designer for a large corporation and does things like this. She's the creative director, right, for a large organization. So my wife sent her friend the logo, and along with some historical logos. And the feedback from that friend was, well, besides the technical issues of having thin lines that won't render well in small sizes, besides that, she says if you're going to design a logo for the fittest on earth, nothing about that is thin and refined. The previous logo did a much better job representing the toughness, the strength, the athleticism of athletes. And the way she said that was really cool. I was like, that is it. That's the the feeling that I get. It's just like this, it is thin and refined. But like the CrossFit Games and athletes, it just feels like the athletes at the games are like powerful. They're doing crazy things. If GoRuck is the sponsor, they're gonna move some heavy stuff, I'm sure. Or like at the time historically when we've been at the games, we've had it was 2019. I think we had a 2019 we had a ruck run. And that was a GoRuck bag. And it was super fun, very challenging. It messed all of us up because none of us were actually ready for something like that. That demands a solid logo. But that's fine. Again, like they don't care what I think. And I don't really care that much. When I see it now, like I do like a fresh logo generally on things. So it's always it feels fresh. I like the fresh colors that we've had over the years. Like each new sponsor sort of brought their own colors. Reebok had some flashy colors, which were really cool at the time. And then Noble brought kind of some earth tones. I also thought those were pretty good at the time. So change is fine. And I think that's it. That's it on that. Rick, what else have we got in the news?
For the last bit of news, it's competition weekend. We're certainly going to be paying attention to Wodapalooza. I know the three of us aren't competing there, but we have some friends and competitors that are down there, and we'll be paying attention to those in the age groups. And I have to be fair, Jason and I have been a little critical in the past here about we think the direction that Wodapalooza has taken with maybe lessening the experience for the Masters in the smaller fields, fewer competition days. And we know when weather rears its ugly head down there, the first groups to get events cut are age groups, not the individuals. So, but as a fan of the sport, I will be watching the elites, and I will be paying attention to the age groups. As every higher level competition, you gotta watch out for who's out there and what the programming's like. And I'll be a fan this weekend. So it's a good weekend to do that. But bad weather, stream sunny Florida.
Absolutely. I think I'm driving most of the day Sunday. So I'll have to just have that running in the background. Nothing like, maybe I'll even save everything maybe I'll try not to watch anything and save it all for Sunday so I can listen to it while I'm driving. It's not great to be watching it while I'm driving a truck and an RV down a highway, but I can listen all day long. No problem. Good call.
Mark.
Well, let's move on. We've got Keith Martin here. I know that for me, I met Keith at MFC. Rick, did you meet Keith down there as well?
I did not, but now I recognize you. So that's we crossed paths. Right. I think a number of times, not only in the warm up area, often on the floor. And so it's great to meet you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you as well, and thank you guys for having me on. It's an honor.
It's always interesting when you meet a person and you're like, this guy's really interesting. And we talked again at Legends. Again, great to see you again at Legends. But you also have let's see, hold on, your email address. By the way, I mean I know your own email address is. Oh, hold on. What is it again? What is your email address? Oh, the CrossFit Criminal at blank.com. I'm not gonna give you full email address out there. But that'll get your attention, right? So there's some story behind there. Like, what in the world is this story? So instead of doing an intro or trying to share a bio that we have, Keith, we'd love to know like your story. So tell us about you. I know it's longer than take as much time as you want. Actually, we're a captive audience right here. So share away, man. Tell us your story. I think it's really interesting.
Oh man. Shoot, where to begin? I guess I probably should just begin with kind of where a lot of people have found, the inspiration. And so, I was released from prison on December 16th of 2022 after spending 70 months in prison. As that was kind of a result of a long drawn out period of alcoholism, drug addiction, and gambling addiction. So, basically over the last year, I have, CrossFitted and made the Masters Championship and made Legends and met you. And that's kind of the story that brought me to this. As a youth, I grew up in Northern California and then moved to Eastern Oregon and played football and got into snowboarding and was a professional snowboarder for a while and went to college for accounting and, had a corporate career where I worked at Deloitte, Nike, and Adidas. And, but, life took a very different turn and I paid a significant price. And, I've tried to learn lessons through that and kind of come out the other side of that and be a different person. And CrossFit was something that I had found along the way that I was able to really lean into in the 70 months that I was in prison and kind of be prepared to come out. And I guess I didn't expect to be as an elite athlete right away, but it was a productive year and I did better than I expected and made events that it was an honor to be in. So started kind of living my dream a little bit, which is, it's been the best year of my life. And it's who knows what the next year will bring, but hopefully more. The goals are bigger and becoming more achievable, I think. So yeah, that's
2023 was a really good year is a way to sum it.
It was an amazing year, I got really lucky finding CrossFit Wilsonville and the coaches there. And, they kind of convinced me to sign up for these and try to make these bigger events. And, my first live in-person contest outside of prison was the Masters Championship. So, and my second one was Legends. So
that's great.
Yeah, those are big ones.
You jump right in off the deep end, don't you?
I feel pretty honored to be part of the fields because man, look at the guys. Look at the guy I got to compete against. Hasn't been beat in 5 years. So, but yeah, it's just I hope to be a comeback story, and I'm trying to live that every day. And I've also been sober since 2 days after my crime, and so that's coming up on 8 years of sobriety. And and CrossFit is my outlet. That's what it's what I love to do, and it's where I spend my energy. And so, yeah, that's a condensed version of it. Obviously, there's a lot in there.
Absolutely.
We can dive into all of that. I'm sure the CrossFit community would probably have a ton of questions about what CrossFit was like inside of Oregon State Penitentiary.
Well,
and
that's what we want to know. Let's go.
And believe me, your jaw would drop. So, I went to prison. I guess I was incarcerated in February of 2017. After about 30 days, for some reason or another, I ended up placed into Oregon State Penitentiary. There's several prisons throughout Oregon, but that was the one that I landed at. And on my first day there, the first day I got out into the yard, I walked onto the weight pile, and there were some guys doing CrossFit. And I had been a member at some CrossFit gyms, in the 2010, 11, 12 time frame.
Okay.
So I knew what CrossFit was. I had done the 2012 Open, back when Rich was dominating. I think that was the year of 7 minutes of burpees. Maybe it was the year before that.
Classic.
So as everybody remembers that one was great. So I see these guys doing some CrossFit, and I kind of jumped in with them, and I was pretty surprised to find out that they had a whole competitive CrossFit program in there, and that they were hosting 4 contests a year. And when I first got there, it was just inmates, but the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of that prison were both CrossFitters. I think one of them had been to the games on a team at some point in his younger days, and so they were kind of supportive of this idea around letting inmates do something positive. So while I was there, the program really grew. We funded through selling protein and having food fundraisers and seeking out angel investors, but we funded a whole rogue competitive plate program, and so we had competition plates for 6 people, and weights up to 315 pounds per bar for those 6 bars, and then it kind of grew out into the normal weight piles at the prison, where we built 3 Olympic weightlifting platforms, had bumper plates on all the and we just kept funding as a group of inmates all of this equipment. When I left, we had I lived in honor housing. In an honor housing, you had access to some extra stuff, but I had a rower, an assault bike, a GHD machine, a pull-up rack, kettlebells, dumbbells, ropes. That was all on our block in honor housing. You could use it anytime.
Your access to equipment sounds somewhat better than maybe some small affiliates have. But it was all funded. That's fantastic.
I mean, yeah, we actually had a true form runner out on the yard, believe it or not, in the yard. But yeah, it was, they allowed us to do, we had what was called the athletic club, which was kind of in charge of like sporting type stuff. So the inmate basketball league and the inmate softball league, and they were in charge of, hosting the CrossFit events and developing them and fundraising and finding angel investors and things like that. But I mean, we had a lot of money donated and a lot of people that supported it, and we had a lot of support from the University of Oregon, some alumni from there that were really involved, and it caught fire coming into COVID, and we actually grew it to where we bought a rig, and we were doing Murph with weight vests. And then we had a Memorial Day event, or a Veterans Day event, where we were doing the Hero Wad coffee with his dad coming in. It was a Gresham fallen hero. And, at the end, we were competing against prison staff, and then we had outside CrossFitters coming in and doing the contest with us. So it really got to be pretty cool before COVID. And COVID, of course, kind of ruined everything. But I mean, that was sort of the foundation of, there were some things they wouldn't let us have. They wouldn't let us have ropes. They wouldn't let us have rings, for obvious reasons, because there was a big wall around the prison. They didn't want people climbing over it. So, but and I think my experience was probably unlike a lot of people, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what the programs are like in other states, but I feel myself fortunate. Like I was just, the stars were kind of aligned in life to go down this road, I think. So I mean, I spent the better part of my free time in prison CrossFitting. Believe it or not, it was,
a positive
not what
outlet,
most people would think.
and
Yeah,
you had goals,
it
and
really
you were,
was. So,
and able to work
yeah,
with the other
and
inmates, from a friendly
yeah.
competitive standpoint too, that pushed each other, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we developed. I mean, the community grew, and I would say at one point, there was probably 60 guys at OSP that were doing CrossFit and entering the contests and competing to the best of their abilities. Which, there were some guys that were pretty, rough along, but
Yep.
people were trying, and it was cool. It was a cool thing for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason. I've got
So what is a full day, like an average day? You were 5 years or over 5 years there, right?
Yeah. 6,
So
almost 6.
walk us through like a day in the life. I mean, I know there's probably not an average day. There's probably lots of different days, but what does a day in the life look like? And you have time to do CrossFit, but you said that was in free time. What is it? What is it like navigating through day by day for such a duration, man?
Well, it's a lot of days to count, first off, and you gotta break it up. It's like doing a really tough chipper.
wow.
You gotta break
That's a
it
way
up
to
into
think
smaller
about it.
pieces.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
So when you start and you got 70 months, you're like, okay, let's just get through the first year. But that's how you get through the time. But as far as it depends kind of on if you're doing what you're supposed to or not. So when I say like honor housing, I had the keys to my cell. Other than the door was unlocked at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I really wasn't required to be back into that cell until 11 p.m. at night, except for a few hours a day during count.
Yeah.
I elected to do a journeyman welding program while I was in there, so I learned to weld. And so I worked for a prison industry that built like road sanders and park gates, and so I would get up, and I would get up at 5, make coffee, kind of get ready to go. I didn't really eat breakfast there. The food is the worst part of prison is the food. So you do a lot of skipping meals, and you eat other ways. So, but I would be at my welding program by 6. I would work there till around 1 to 2. Try to catch afternoon yard until somewhere around 4 or 5. And so when you're in honor housing, you kind of have access to things that most people don't, like the rower and the assault bike and dumbbells and kettlebells, and that was actually on the block that we lived on. So you could work out up and all the way up until 11 p.m. at night if you wanted to. And there was day rooms and areas where you're away from the cells that you could use, and so it was quite a bit of time, to do that stuff if you chose to. So, so we would. I had a couple guys I worked out with pretty regularly that were, one of whom is a really good CrossFitter, and he could be this level when he gets out if he wanted to be. And we would, we would come up with WODs, or we would see what was programmed, and we'd just try to do it the best we could with the equipment we had. And then the last 2 years, I had a pretty supportive mother, and she started sending me in Invictus's programming that was free online. So every week I'd get an envelope of Invictus's programming, and so we would do that to the best of our ability. And by the end, by 2022, we had just about everything we needed in there to do it, with the exception of ropes and rings. We had every piece of equipment you needed to do most of the workouts. So
What was your substitution? What did you sub for double unders? What would you do to try to make that a similar stimulus?
We were able to actually, through the program of the athletic club, we had weight belts and wrist wraps and grips and jump ropes, and they wouldn't give us speed ropes. So we did. We had the Rogue licorice ropes.
Oh, okay, sure,
right.
So that's what we used for double unders. So that when the beaded rope double unders came out, like,
somebody's been practicing.
So I look, it was,
Mhm.
we were fortunate. We were fortunate because of the superintendent we had, and kind of, the culture of America is changing with prison as well, and prison inmate rights. And Oregon is definitely
Okay.
on the liberal side of that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we were fairly well supported because, that group, that community tended to be people who were doing what they were supposed to do, and they were
Yeah.
good for the,
Yeah.
culture of the prison.
Yeah.
So it was, look, like I said, in some ways, I feel so blessed. I mean, it
No.
seems weird that you would say that, but it's so lucky that
Mm.
that's where I ended up, compared to
Yeah.
maybe some of the other institutions around Oregon that I could have ended
Yeah.
up.
Well,
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
about the camaraderie that you experience in a
Mhm.
CrossFit gym, right? Like wherever I train, and I've been able to walk into a lot of different CrossFit gyms. Within a couple of days, I've got people I'm training with all of a sudden. It
Mhm.
just happens naturally.
Yeah.
And I just imagine that there was something really meaningful about that as you're counting your days in this monster chipper, 70-month chipper you're working through. But
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis, you have you have people that you're looking forward to spending time. You're looking forward to training. You're having the camaraderie of suffering together, which is for people who don't experience that in they don't have that in whatever they do for training. It's a totally amazing thing to suffer with other people and
Yep.
look over and just see, well, that guy's suffering too, and that guy's suffering too, and I'm suffering, and then afterwards, like, that was great. You want to do it tomorrow? Well, yeah, of course. It's the
Mhm.
weirdest thing,
Yeah.
but to be able to have that opportunity in your circumstances had to be, I mean, yeah, truly unique and really special. I
Did,
mean, really, really
uh,
cool.
I have a
Yeah.
question about you talked about how fortunate you were in there, and supportive that the prison was. Did the prison have um, somebody? Had they ever worked with somebody from CrossFit? I think I've read things like there's been some outreach programs where they might do training seminars or things like that. Was this an institution that actually had some um, made some contact, or was it just organic from that with some?
We had, the athletic club, and some of us CrossFit individuals had reached out through an L1
Right.
correctional officer, and they had offered to do the L1 for us for a reduced rate. It still wasn't
There's
that
yeah.
reduced, but and we had support for that. But again, COVID changed a lot, and it made it, it erased a lot of programming. So there was some work and some push towards that, and then it kind of fell apart with COVID. And the primary, like I had mentioned, the superintendent and assistant
Mhm.
superintendent at the time were both
They were,
CrossFitters, so they
yeah.
were the driving force of the staff that was allowing us to do it. What the superintendent has since moved on, and I don't, I've been out a year and a month now, and I don't know if the assistant superintendent's
Okay.
still there. I would assume he is, but once you get out, you don't keep a ton of ties.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
I communicate with a few people there, and then I do some partner competing with a guy that I met while I was in there, who's been out a little longer than me, and he's quite a bit younger, so I have to compete in RX Male when I'm with him. So, but we hit a podium this year, so that was kind of cool. So,
well,
yeah. So
I'm sure some of them are following your journey too, if they're able to keep up. Yeah, because again, this remarkable run that you've had, and you're only getting started. I mean, that's the beautiful thing to think about.
I hope.
But what you have done and accomplished, I'm sure, is going noticed.
I mean, that's not my goal, but I hope that I can inspire someone, right? I didn't think I was going to get famous through going to prison, so infamous maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, there are some.
Mhm.
There are good people in there. Unfortunately, people make mistakes. Not everybody in prison is the worst person in the world. Yes,
Sure.
there are bad people in there, but there are good people in there as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was where my life was always headed, but it only takes a short period of time and a and a rash decision to put you in a very bad place in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't blame anybody for what happened. I did what I did, and the punishment was what it was, and that was the law of Oregon. And, you know, I wasn't the victim. There was a victim in that crime. And so, I mean, I try to take responsibility, and I'm trying to live a life of responsibility since then. So, I mean, that's my goal and my hope. And CrossFit's a very good outlet for me to stay on that path.
That's a powerful message. And from depending if you're inside OSP or if you're on the outside, that what you're trying to achieve, I think, doesn't matter. And you just called it an outlet. I mean, everybody they find out what their outlet is in life, and how you know, for your mental well-being, for obviously for physical fitness, just a way to connect with others, like Jason was saying, shared suffering. We've just happened to find the sport as a way for us to, you know, stay sane, for lack of a better word. And it works.
Yeah.
It really can work. The magic of it is it can work almost anywhere. I mean, that's the part.
Yeah, and it does.
Non-CrossFit related, but you've touched on it twice. I'm just more curious. We know how COVID shut down everything, depending on, even more so in certain states than others. You mentioned it twice, how it really disrupted everything in the prison there. Was it a matter of, you know, they wanted more isolation because they were trying to stop the spread and all that? So it you know, here we had gyms, everybody's gyms closed for a certain period of time. Some's closed a lot longer. You had to stay in your box, your 10 feet. You couldn't talk to or touch anything or touch anyone or whatever. Was it something similar like that, where that was handed down from the top and they just said, you got to stop everything? Or
for us, it was, well, first of all, it really controlled who was coming into the prison. So a lot of the guests and people who would come in, and the supportive people that would come to meetings and stuff couldn't come in anymore. So a lot of the supportive community members were not allowed in. For a significant period of time, they were segregating the units. So it really changed the flow of the prison from a standpoint of who was going to get to go out to the recreation yard at certain times, who was going to the chow hall at certain times. For an initial stage, the prison was just completely locked down, and nobody moved at all.
Early on.
And they allowed the honor housing unit to go to work because some of the stuff had to get done. Like, you got to do the laundry, and, you know, the prison can't just shut down and it won't run. So again, being in honor housing was more than a privilege because you were actually allowed out of your cell. But for a period of, I think, 90 days, we were basically locked down. After that, though, they regularly rotated people out. And so they made cleaning crews for the yard, and they were spraying everything with bleach. And I mean, I think we were back to working out on a normal schedule way before the rest
ironic?
Of the world.
That's
believe it or not, my friends were like, it's such BS. You get to work out. We can't even go to the gym. It didn't interrupt my training too much, but we had to wear masks, and it just really limited our ability to host the Murph event and bring the outside guests in, and they wouldn't let us have our CrossFit events for about a year. But then when it came back on, we still couldn't have the outside guests, which that was the part that really made it powerful, is when you have CrossFitters from, around the community coming in and competing against, guys who aren't yet free. Yeah. It becomes something really cool. And, when the superintendent is, lacing up his nobles and coming out and competing against you, it really, it makes you feel like it's just different. It's just different. You feel like a person, I guess, versus one thing, prison does is kind of take away your identity a little bit, and certainly takes away your freedom. So it's easy not to feel human in there. And those events really kind of made you feel connected. So that was it was sad, and I don't know to what level they're even back to their competitive program now. It had not fully returned even by the time I had left in 22. So I do know they did Murph this year because one of my friends crazily decided to do it with a double weight. So he did a 40-pound Murph, which does not sound fun to me. But he messaged me and told me I had a bad idea, and I went through with it, and I'll never do it again. So, but apparently, yeah. So they did do Murph, and I heard that through him that they had actually set up a full-time rig for doing Murph now and poured a whole concrete slab and everything. So,
wow.
Yeah, and they were supposed to even put rings on that. So I heard maybe they got rings. Yeah, well, believe it or not.
Rings are the hardest one, man. I when I was traveling, I didn't have rings. Rings are, it's just one of those things. It'd be so nice to have there. Keith, you talked about like in on the inside, right? You do lose your freedom, right? You lose your freedom. Yep. Your identity is minimized, right? So it was always curious, like the day, the week, the year that you've been out. Looking back on this past year, what have been some of the sweetest things that you've experienced coming from such kind of deprivation to freedom? What are the things that were most meaningful to you on this side of it?
I mean, to be alone is
yeah, right.
To be alone, it's become such a commodity that you would really underestimate if you'd never had to live in a very small room with another man for a long time. So I was very fortunate. I had a supportive group where I came right back to a job, and they rented me a house, and I have a 3-bedroom house that I live in by myself. Some of the sweetest moments are just the peace and quiet of being able to sit in a house by myself and be free. Not, I can go to the gym if I want, or I can walk outside, or nobody's dictating that. So, I mean, I will say this, that prison taught me that the two most valuable things in life are freedom and time, because without those two together, if you don't couple them together, they're not meaningful at all. Right. So you take either one of those away, you have all the time in the world, but if you're not free, then you're in prison.
Right.
So, and if you're free, but you don't have any time, well, then you know where you're at. You're no longer living. So, I think that, and getting coaching, that has been amazing.
How great is that? Feedback from someone that can see you moving, not just figuring it out.
That's been really cool. Yeah, I mean, and I think also, getting back to kind of real life and a schedule and a job and some normalcy and food. I guess the last thing would be food.
Right. Dude, what was your first meal? Or did you have a meal that you were like, I can't wait to have this, and then you had it and it was as good as you thought? Was there anything like that?
Steak. Okay.
Done.
Steak. Tri-tip. I mean, any kind of seafood.
Right.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The eating in prison is very difficult. That's why, like, when you do food fundraisers for the clubs, they're so popular. Like, hey, we're getting Popeye's chicken sandwiches. Wow. I'll take 10. Thanks. So yeah, I mean, it's to answer your question is just kind of the little things, the things that you just take for granted until you don't have them. It's not this like complicated life. Life gets very simple, I think, post. It's just like you realize you don't need a ton, right? You've lived 6 years with very little, so you don't need a ton. Everything else is kind of a luxury.
Right.
Well, I will then ask you, because your accomplishments in 2023 have been pretty incredible. I mean, doesn't matter where you come from or what your background is or what you've done. The progress you've made through the CrossFit Open, through quarterfinals and then qualifying for 2 high-level Masters competitions. But when you said your first in-person live one this year at Legends. I mean, at Masters in Fort Wayne. That first event for individuals, I think, was that nasty burpee sandbag running one. So take us back to you and you that corralled you up. You're there, and you kind of walk out onto the floor. What's going through your mind? How, from a competitive standpoint, butterflies, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm here. I'm on a floor. I've got a lane. They're going to say athletes 1 minute. And what's going through your mind through that? Is that something you can share?
Yeah. Well, first off, I got to say, I'm fortunate that my coach traveled with me and he was there. And, I have two coaches. We have two coaches at CrossFit Wilsonville that both travel, and they're married. So it's EJ and Dave. So Dave came on that trip, and Dave goes, look, this is a good workout for you, buddy. Like, so just go do what you do. And so, I mean, the nerves were there. Fortunately, I'd done a couple of team contests over the summer. So I'd been through some nerves, and I was prepared, on that end. And I honestly thought I could finish it. And I did.
Excellent.
I was one of the three people that did. So, but that was good. That's grunt work, and that's what I'm good at that. I didn't know how the 200-pound sandbag would feel, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Better you than me.
So after the burpees and the running were the worst part. The sandbag was awesome. So I got second. I think I got second in that event, which was, what a way to start. Like, I wish I could have finished the way I started, but no, I mean, that was a good start to that week. I mean, it was just one of those workouts where you just had to move and be tough.
That kind of leads me to, if I'm putting a program together and I'm writing up a bio, and I had to write up, Keith Martin's type of athlete that he is. How would you describe yourself as a competitor? What do you like to go to? Obviously, you just alluded to the grunt work, kind of get it done type, but what type of a competitor are you, and what are your favorite, when you see programmed, what lights you up and go, okay, it's go time?
I mean, I think for me, the heavier the better. Strength is definitely where my like.
Okay.
I'm strong. I can't wait for the 1 rep Mac back squat. That's going to be my wheelhouse. I'm hoping to hit a lifetime. My goal is to hit 500 pounds here before it's too late. So that's a lifetime goal. But no, I think I do really well in gritty, grunty workouts, and kind of the longer the better. Like, those really taxing, longer workouts are good. Gymnastics are tough for me, and I struggle with that, which is what I practice the most. And it's, those come along as they come along. But yeah, squatting and just not ever the triple threat again.
Yeah,
please no.
Yeah,
that.
Oh my God, that was terrible. That's right.
Yeah, that was rough. I really thought I would have done better than that, but man, that was a tough workout.
Well, and obviously your coaches have you
so
addressing some of those areas where you say to yourself, hey, look, I know this is what I want to work on. It's maybe what's holding me back from that next step or that next level. And so they're giving you extra programming or extra work, or you just spend time before or after your time there addressing those deficiencies.
Yeah, we have a pretty robust competitive program, and the coaches program for that. And we have a junior games athlete who's now, a open athlete now, and so she's really pushing hard to make the games. And so yeah, I mean, our coaches are actively programming everybody's weaknesses. And it's a fairly robust. I don't complete it all each day. It's too big to do that. But yeah, I mean, work a lot on overhead positioning and handstand walking and handstand push-ups, and then a lot of it's capacity, like, just developing more capacity to do the movements under fatigue, which is where Mr. Grubb runs away from us all.
Yeah,
capacity to do the movements under fatigue.
Just give me enough time. That's all I'm asking for.
I mean,
No, I was going to say,
Go ahead.
what does 2024 look like for you? What do you have, if you don't mind sharing, maybe some goals or plans on what the competition year? Your body feels good, obviously. You're ready to roll.
Well, I mean, honestly, I dreamed of going to the games, and I knew that when it was a field of 10, that was going to be a very, very challenging hill to get over.
Yeah.
Now, with it being a field of 40,
Right.
that has to be the goal, right? I think that's the level that I'm close to, and I have to stay healthy. But no, I think the goal is to make the games this year, and that's the plan. That's what we're aiming to, and then I would love to go back and do Masters Fitness Championship again at healthy and hopefully finish it. I mean, I was certainly going in contention for the podium there before I got hurt. And Legends is a cool contest. I think probably if I had to pick 3 things I wanted to do again next year, those would probably be the top 3 things. And maybe see about what they do with the Masters for the West Coast.
We failed to mention that at the beginning, but that's right. That is on everybody's radar just because it's going to be something different, yet it's supposed to include age groups. So, yeah, for you, it's a heck of a lot closer than myself. But
so that's on that would be the other thing on the radar. Now, obviously maybe the games doesn't happen this year, maybe it does, and so that could change plans, but it's got to be the goal, right? That's what everybody should be at that level. I think you have to be kind of gearing towards that. So
bro, that's my plan. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
I got the same goals. Let's do the same thing we did last year, guys. I mean, why not?
Get knocked off track. That's what you're aiming for. Are you after you've experienced the food again and you can do what you want when you want? Do you spend a lot of time dialing in nutrition? Is that something that now that you have the ability to kind of fit your schedule to how you want to train and the energy that you need to support yourself, how does your nutrition plan look? Or
well, it's definitely an area that I need to work on more.
Oh, sure.
I think everybody's probably in that group, but I do try to meal prep each week, and so that normally helps me stay better than if I don't, and then I'm just kind of winging it. I work construction as well, so my caloric burn is, according to Whoop, like 6,000 calories a day or something. I don't know. It's hard to eat right all the time, but I mean, meal prepping really helps me. So that's kind of that's been my go-to. Try to meal prep on Sundays, and then it kind of knocks out the food for the week, so that I can do my 10-hour work day, hit the gym for 3 hours, and then eat quickly and reset.
It's one less decision that you have to think about after work or between training, or it's done.
Yeah. Otherwise, I end up at Mod Pizza or somewhere like that, and it's not the best. But
how about
it is? It's just
how about the 80-20
rule?
Right? You know what? Nobody's perfect. That's okay. You know what? We're not robots, and we're not intended to be. There's too much good food.
My coach always says you can eat whatever you want, just put calories in.
When you're burning them like that,
yes, that is generally true.
He says if you like Oreos, eat Oreos. I said, all right, fair enough.
If you're burning 6,000 calories or anything like that during the day while you're working and training, yes, you have the liberty to eat anything you can, everything you can. Not everyone gets to do that. Some of us are sitting on our butts.
Unfortunately,
I know.
Yeah,
I was thinking about you,
specifically me.
Specifically.
Fortunately, I don't have to do a whole lot of watching what I eat. I just have to eat
because what you don't. If you're training after a work day, energy levels are so. It's critical that you're fueling yourself. That way appropriately. I know it's different for everybody, but first thing in the morning, you don't need a lot before you're training.
Yeah. Most
people, but after the day, that's tough.
Right.
So I give you credit.
Yeah. And it's noticeable when you're off. You can certainly tell. You can be like, well, training feels terrible, and I
Yeah.
got a pretty good suspicion why.
didn't
You
either.
know, so
Yep.
there are a lot of those days where you do what you can do and what your body's willing to do that day. So
Yep.
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah.
Well, Keith, dude, this was fantastic, man. Thank you so much for taking time to jump on with us. I know that I've been looking forward to this for months. I mean, since our first conversation, I was like, oh, I can't wait for this conversation, for this story to get to know you more. And I appreciate you coming and introducing yourself to me at MFC. And then, of course, coming to hang out a bit at Legends. And I know that for both Rick and I, we can't wait to see you out there at the next competition. Whenever we all get together again, we compete, we train hard, we just bust it up, and then afterwards we have pizza and and get all the calories back in the system. Fair enough.
Sounds like a plan.
I can't wait myself.
Keith, thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Man, you guys, I just one last thing. I appreciate it so much. I'm humbled to be in your guys' presence. And hopefully we've inspired somebody today.
Absolutely. It's a remarkable story, and we appreciate your
my
time.
friend.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning into the Masters in Motion podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could take just a quick moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast or your preferred podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button, give it a like. That helps support and reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, guys, get bolder, not older. See ya.